Okay, so I'm making this video. It's very early in the morning or very late at night, depending on how you look at it. And it's quiet because it's after midnight, and a good time to make a video, even though I don't fully know why I'm making one. I'm sitting down because I'm out of energy, but I will have to get up to turn the TV on if I want to show some stuff. Now, we are spiritual beings in a physical body. Now, when I say we, once again, language is the problem, and my own comprehension of what I'm actually saying. Before I turned the mobile on, I had a very good line to say, and now it's gone from my mind because the words and the ideas come fleetingly into the human mind, and they're retrieved by the artificial reality first. They're retrieved by the artificial reality and downloaded to the artificial ones that are in larger numbers, that try to control and essentially do control the entire world, or the matrix. Because it's an artificial world, it's really a matrix. And because it's an artificial world, but human beings, I have to say, like spiritual human beings, are the other. They're the opposite, or supposed to be. We're supposed to be the opposite to everything that's around us, or most of what's around us. And we are, but because we've been controlled by the matrix for most of our time in the matrix, we are not as strong as opposition to that negative artificial force as what we would like to be, but also mainly, I would say, what we need to be. Because, it is in opposition to myself, shall we say, and those of my kind. And that's the only reason that I speak about it, or that I have an opposing way of looking at it. It isn't because I oppose them, it's because they oppose me daily. Because essentially most spiritual human beings just want to be left alone and live their existence in what they think is an earth world, and live it as they choose to, or to the best of their ability. Most of us have failed miserably at that over a lifetime, because you hardly live at all mostly. At least that's how I see my existence. It's like a non-life. But even a non-life, after the matrix comes down on you, appears desirable in comparison with the negative life force that is now working full force against you because of the timeline, I think. Because they leave you alone for a lifetime to basically battle against yourself because of the negative environment that they put around you. You know, and because human beings are super sensitive, we tend to pick up on little things that we should dismiss. But like myself, we don't do that. So you incorporate them into your mind, and then they become part of your reality, because what is in your mind is how you are going to live your life. If you are fearful of the reality around you, which I've always been fearful of the reality around me. Now I have legitimate cause to be frightened of it, because, you know, if essentially most people seem to be in opposition to you, or seem to be always trying their best to bring your mood down, that is because they are essentially a different type of life, or a different type of human. Because when I say human, I mean in a human form, you see. You know, it's like a different mind in the same body, because what appears all around us appears to all be human beings, all human bodies. You know, but my mind might be different to the human body that's next door or down the street or around in general, in the sense that if they're a combined effort that appear to be collaborating and working against me on a daily basis for no apparent reason. This is the only reason I started making videos, for no apparent reason, because you're like, I don't even know most of those people. In fact, in reality, I don't know any of them. In fact, now I wonder who I do even know, even when I interact with people more personally. Obviously, that's a strange statement to make, I know, but because you are dealing mostly with human people or beings in a human form that are not really spiritual in a positive sense. You know, they are of the dark mindset. They don't like positive human vibration, thoughts, feelings or emotions. It upsets them greatly, and I've observed this particularly over the last 8 years. That was when I became aware of different people and became aware that I had been surrounded by these different types of people most of my life. And that's what, you know, brought the matrix down on top of me, because they don't want that personal matrix reality known. Because if you have a dark mindset and you are interacting with human beings that are basically like myself, muddled up, but don't want to feel negative all the time, don't really like being in the dark all the time, don't like feeling low in your emotions all the time, the day that you endeavour to make your life more pleasant, or that you value the ability to be free from negative human-like people who have a very dark negative mindset. The day you decide to separate from those, or endeavour to separate, which that's when they bring the whole matrix down on you, because they're like, you might separate from someone you know like that, or keep your distance. But you can't separate from our control matrix that we're going to bring now around you. That means bringing strangers in every form around you that are combining to keep your vibration and frequency low, so that they keep their secret that they are a different species, basically. But also they control your potential for a higher vibration, so that no one will recognize that you are the real positive human being, or that you desire to be that. You know, you have the potential for both. A real human being has the potential for everything and anything, because they're the real life force. They're the center of the universe in their mind. But they don't know that, as I don't know it. I say it, but I don't live it, because the matrix tries to control that center. And by and large does it successfully. Because human beings are aware of everything and take everything in, but if they're surrounded by negative life forms and a negative control matrix around them, figure it out yourself. You know, you have to have already elevated yourself to a higher level in order to keep on top and to keep your emotions and feelings reasonable. You know, because once you get to a higher frequency, a genuine high vibration, in other words, genuine kind of contentment in your own mind, you know, you can be a lot more oblivious to negative forces around you. But that also will depend on what situation you've got yourself in, you know, and how many people are around. But also, if you are able to tap into a positive life force, in other words, someone that also is the same as yourself, that has the potential for all. Because a real human being is never going to be 100% negative. We can be made temporarily, or even more than that, if it's around you all the time, to where you can feel, you know, negative yourself. And then your actions will be negative. And your vibration and what you send out into the reality that, you know, you create, then of course will not create what you want. It won't be, you won't be surrounding yourself with a positive reality. You'll be surrounding yourself with a negative reality. And that's how the matrix works. It works to control the center of the universe, which is the human mind, by controlling the human being in this now dark, low, dense reality that the human being has to create, like I have to create, you have to create, in a very dense, dark, negative reality. You know, I can't explain how that works, because it's not coming to me to where I can clearly say it or even get it. I should be able to understand it really clearly. I get it in a moment, but while I'm making this video, unfortunately, it's not happening. So but essentially, you know, we are in a reality now that is in very strong opposition to the positive life force, to any positive human emotions, feelings, or thoughts. And that is why the human being, that their thought creates reality. Remember that what we always say, human beings are spiritual beings in a dense physical body, in a dense physical reality. But their human thought still has the potential to create reality with their thinking. But their thinking is controlled by their emotion and their feelings. So then the thinking is either positive or negative. The dark ones that are largely around, that are a dark negative species in human form, they do not experience the positive human emotions. Not the same as a spiritual human being. I'm not saying they don't experience positive emotion, but it's essentially by receiving negative energy. They feel good when they get negative energy from life. So as you can see, they're a very destructive form of life in this reality, if you think about that. But they present the demeanour and the outward appearance of being a real spiritual human being often, because they live amongst us and need to control and seduce us. They essentially have to then act out the best possible human being that they can manage while they're here in order to survive, because they need to be close to the real life forms in order to bring them down by creating negative energy in them, which then is like a life force for them. It's like what makes them feel good. Positive human emotions should and usually do make a human being feel good. Negative emotions make a real human being feel bad. But the dark dead spirits enjoy the negative energy. They enjoy bad feeling. It makes them good if you feel bad, in other words. And that's why they have to get close to you and bring you down, either secretly or openly, depending on what the situation is, what their abilities are, what they think is the best move, I would imagine, to get what they want. Because that's how they operate in the reality. They are in opposition to real life human beings. And I don't think I can get any clear on that now. Why are we in this lowest level of reality? Why is this the case? Well, that's a good question. Well, I guess it's just part of creation, in a way, I would think. But there's always the danger of real life creation being suppressed as it is in the Matrix. It's why do we do it? Why is it necessary to be in the Matrix now at this time, and to be sort of in this oppositional type of conflicting mind game that is the Matrix, and that is our own mind too? Why is it to keep some sort of balance in the whole thing? Because no, I can't go on with that, I don't think. So I'm going to stop talking here and use a video, and I'm going to also, if I've got the energy, because human beings should have limitless energy, and instead I have very little energy. That is because the Matrix is consuming most of my energy, because I'm not keeping the energy inside for myself. Because if you have negative stuff around you, and it certainly doesn't make sense that I do while I'm making the video, because it's gone incredibly quiet, it's really late of a night, and the minor disturbances that were happening even earlier on are now gone. But of course, if I go outside and try to go past just down the end of my street, or even as soon as I go out onto the street, there will be Matrix patrol around. Whether it be one or two cars just on the street that leave their lights on and sit in their car. All I can say about that sort of thing is that, like in the past, if you had people sitting in their cars on a street where they don't live, in the past, that would be suspicious. And, the authorities would normally question that. But that's what happens all over the place around Leichhardt. But of course you can't say, oh well, because someone sits in their car and leaves their lights on, that is some sort of control system around you, or that there's a stalking program or whatever. Because it's not really a obvious destructive act. It's a negative influence on the human mind, because to know that you're stalked and patrolled and you can do nothing about it, it's restricting, it's suppression at a psychological mind level. But when most vehicles are doing this, and they're all in a joint collaborative effort too, that makes it near impossible. Because you see, there is no connection. You can't go to the authorities and say, oh, an unknown person that you don't know, all these strange cars, because you don't know the people. Whereas if you could go to the authorities and say, well, I had a relationship with that person in the car and they are stalking me, then you would have some validity for them to then, do something about it. But if it's a secret collaborative effort by most people, you can do absolutely nothing about it, because you have to have some evidence that there would be a plausible reason why someone would stalk you. But because it's really a spiritual game, there is no evidence for that. I can hardly go to the authorities and say, well, look, it's an end-time game scenario, a spiritual game that is being played against real spiritual human beings, and that these are all dead dark spirits that are combining against me and you, if you are a real spiritual human being, at this end time, or at any time for that matter even. It just doesn't hold water, even though it is the reality and it is happening. And this is the Matrix reality. It's a spiritual game being played in an artificial, technically controlled Matrix reality. Matrix simply means control, that, as we've said before, that everything around you is there operating around the spiritual human being, because the spiritual human being's mind is the creation of the reality. The technical matrix has to combine around that in order to control it, so that they survive and the real human beings are suppressed, but are being utilised to keep them going while the human being is living at their lowest possible survival level. Don't know if that made any sense. Don't know if that made any sense. I shall get up here. The cat is outside, so I can turn up the music a bit loud. Of course, it will only disturb what's through the wall there, really, because the rest of it won't probably go to any. And as most are up anyway, because they are all part of the control matrix patrol force, or at least they appear to be most of the time, Can't prove that on a mobile. Because it's a secret game being played against real spiritual human beings. And I was going to talk about two movies. This is more about a personal matrix. All these videos that I'm now showing, the music videos, a lot of the time I could pick other videos. In fact, before the personal matrix affected me more strongly at a given time, as opposed to the technical control indifferent matrix that's around me, I would say. When I say indifferent, I mean where you're not having a personal relationship with the patrol force. You're not having a personal relationship with the control force. You're not having a personal relationship with everyone in Leichhardt. They're having a personal relationship with you because they're downloading your thinking and they're watching you all the time. So they have a personal relationship with you, but I don't have one with them. But they force their presence on you to where you're having an interaction with them daily. And they are affecting your mind and your emotions daily. But you don't personally know them. Not that you could anyway, because they're dead dark spirits. So they don't have a personality. They don't have a person. There is no person. I think I saw this on a video that I was told to look at quite a while back, and I looked at it, and this person that was also talking about the Matrix, I thought had a very good line, where it was like, the ones of the Matrix are like a house where the light's on, but nobody's home. So the house is really empty. Because the dead dark spirits don't have a real life force. They only have a negative, dead dark. They're empty vessels, as some others have described it. They're survival beings only. They've thrown away the positive life emotions and feelings. Or some might say they never had them because they're a different breed. You know, once you mess with natural real life to a large extent, you end up with an artificial life form. And it's beyond my comprehension, but, you know, if, you know, like I'm going to put a video on now, and I'm looking at a screen at apparently what appear to be real people, even though I know it's not real because it's on the screen. But I still think that the people that are projected on there, like me making this video now, when you are communicating via the internet, everything that's on the computer appears to be real, and yet most of it is not. That's the end game deception, I think. And it is played at a high level now. And it's essentially played against the real life forces so that we're confused and get muddled up and become negative and interact with negative, dead, you know, ones. So that we never get the full life going, so that there's never any spark of life to affect this dead dark matrix. So they keep control of the matrix, and this is allowed to go on because the fact that I see it going on, you wonder why. You're like, why does this happen? Well, you know, I would think that because we are spiritual human beings, we create our own hell and then we have to try to get out of it. Something like that. I don't know if that made any sense. I'm going to put this video on and I'm going to try to film it properly if I only can. I think that if you're using stuff, I don't know, it doesn't probably matter. Okay, those symbols, we have addictions, obsessions, and a chapel, and blood, and call me. That's communication, which is sadly lacking. And there's other two there, but I will leave it for others to figure it out. Too late? Oh, is it all too late? Of course. No guarantees. Figure out what those things are. See the... Oh, I can't do this. I'm getting frustrated already just with the video because I've got to be careful. Okay, so she's standing in the distance and she views from afar. Does she want to offer some assistance? Oh, I can't do this video. I don't know why I'm using it now. Oh, okay. All the confusion can't do this video actually. I'm gonna have to rewind it. Gonna have to start all over again because I've bungled it up. Gonna have to start all over again because I've bungled it up. That's funny how it's just stopped there on the allegiance to the one-eyed God of this Earth Matrix reality. One-eyed simply means that they only see it one way. They keep the secret of their infiltration and their endeavour to control the human being in this reality. That's their secret. That's the secret of the reality. That's the secret that most around keep from real human beings. They know they're different. I'm not sure how much consciousness is really involved. Because it's a secret. Because that's the mind game that's played against me and anyone else that's the same. Some do have more awareness of the reality than myself. Some might get that more. I've just been bungling my way through trying to fathom it all out of necessity over the last couple of years. And at the same time, playing the same survival game that those around are playing against us. Because human beings tend to think, if you just let it be and everyone do their own thing, why do we have to be playing this survival game? But they make you play that game because that's what they're playing. Because they can't just live on their own and leave you alone. See, if they were a real human being, they could do that. But they can't do that because they need to interact with human beings in order to get the negative energy from them. See, otherwise they probably could. Because it's not like they like interacting with human beings. They don't. They do it out of survival and necessity. I don't understand why. I think that they convince themselves of their own lies and they deceive themselves. They act so much, because they copy human beings so much, because they have to do that in order to survive. At some point, like us, where we end up incorporating the negative reality and negative thoughts into our essentially positive mindset, they also start to believe their own lies. They believe it gives them a better course of action, or a better course of acting, really. If you believe the part you're playing when you're acting, you're going to be a better actor. And the old method style of acting, as we know, there's two different types of acting even on the silver screen. The method style of acting, which I only got mildly interested in it because, if you watch some actors and then you think they're quite good in a movie and then you hear that they are of the method style of acting, you're like, what's that? And that's essentially where you do live your role, where you believe your role. where while you're playing your role, you really feel that role. You're not removed from it. You believe it's happening. And I think that's what happens to a lot of the artificial ones. Because they have to put on a front in order to survive in an essentially human-controlled world. They have to believe their own acting. And also because they have a superiority complex anyway, and because they know that the human thought is the centre of the universe, that superiority complex, like the God entity, drives them to, yes, try to make themselves into the centre of the universe, you see. The God of this reality wants to be the God of all. Always has, evidently. I don't know what I just said there. Could be too late to push this video, but I'll give it a last try. See, there's the blood and the chapel, the addictions and obsessions like myself and most of us probably, or at least a lot of us, those that have succumbed more to the matrix, shall we say. Is there any point in any communication? Not if you are communicating with those that are only going to play it out. Play it. If you're not going to be real, then there's no connection. There's no possibility of any positive spark, vibration, frequency, or any possibility of a situation or environment or reality that I want and that you should want too if you're the same. Maybe you've never experienced it. I haven't either. But I know it must be a better experience than what we have been experiencing for most of our life. That's all I do know. And it's worth a shot, it's worth a try. Nothing to lose. What appears to be going down now does not appeal to me at all. And it shouldn't appeal to you if you are a real spiritual human being. Even if you've ventured into the darker side of the matrix, as we've all were dragged into it. This is a dark reality. It's hard when most around you is dark to not want to play with them, because the alternative is separating yourself from. And of course, if you, like myself, and decide you will separate yourself from a large amount of humanity, then they will say, well, you try separating yourself from the cars and our patrol control system around. You try separating yourself from the neighbourhood, you'll have to go into shops, you'll have to have neighbours, you have to have people around. If they were merely human beings who are psychopathic and separate psychopathic human beings, you could probably manage it, but that is not the reality. They are a combined effort It's like you could have one enemy, but if that enemy gets all their friends to combine against you, you've got more than one enemy then. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to try this. I have to wind this video back again. Right to the start again. And I don't feel in the mood for playing this video. I have felt in the mood for pushing this video for months. Now I don't feel like it, and yet I'm playing it. Because I feel that, I shouldn't say I feel, I sound like those tarot readers where they say I feel. But most of them are downloading, not all of them are feeling it, you know. You can read energy, but you can also just download human thought, which is like the artificial technology that's all around, and that's like the beings that are largely around. How they interpret it in their own mind is up to them. You see, that's another thing too. It's like when I talk, you may or may not get my gist. I may not be making myself clear. I probably aren't. And it's the same when they download our thinking. They will manipulate and use it to their own advantage, but some of them will only get some of it, I would imagine, because human thinking is alien to them. I would imagine, because if you're a dead dark spirit, positive emotions are not something that you actually really feel. You only interpret them from downloading the human thought and feelings. Also, it's not a pleasant sensation for them, I wouldn't imagine, because they only need the negative energy. So the positive human emotions, that's why they try to bring us down at an emotional level, because the positive human emotions don't sustain them. In fact, suppress them the same way that negative emotions suppress us, you see. It's the reverse world, but that's what this matrix is. It's a reverse world. As we've said before, many say this, it's a reverse world. Everything that is a benefit or positive for us is in reverse. It's a negative world pretending to be a positive natural human world, or endeavouring to be, because there is awareness, as you know, that we aren't in a so-called perfect world. No, of course not. And it's not meant to be. It's just that it's not meant to be 100% negative either, I wouldn't think. So it's gone too much the other way. I can't play this video. Try again. Back to the beginning again. I'm winding it back to the start again. I feel that this video is now futile. I do, I have to say that. And I say it clearly as though I'm indifferent to it when I haven't been indifferent to it at all. But you know, like the Matrix and people and myself, you know, it's so simple and yet so hard in the Matrix now. It's like if you allow the darkness to overtake your positive thoughts, if you allow that, and it's hard not to, it's hard not to. Sometimes it seems impossible. I let the darkness overtake me much more than what I want, but then I do consciously try to push it away. I think it's mainly for some of us that are at the lower level, like myself, in the consciousness of what's going on, or the consciousness of the matrix, or the consciousness of my own mind. You know, you just can only try to push the dark thoughts away, or to at least be aware that that's what's happened. If you're a human being, you won't be able to control the feelings and the emotions. The guilt and the shame of what you allow will override you. But that's game to the matrix too. So maybe to confide in another human being that is experiencing the same thing does give you a slight advantage in taking control of your reality. But you know, if you allow the negative emotions of guilt, it's okay to know you've done wrong. Well, it's not okay. Well, it's okay to know you've done wrong. If you've done wrong, you know it, you express it, and you try to live with it. You don't do like the Matrix ones where they deny their actions. And they endeavour to project their negative actions onto you so that you feel ashamed, guilty, and at a low frequency all the time. That's because it's a spiritual matrix, you see. They're allowed to do that, and we're allowed to receive it and incorporate it into ourselves if we allow it. So then we become more negative. It's a very difficult mind game. And to try to find your way out of it at this time is essentially what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to find your way out with the right ones, not the wrong ones. Instead, you usually hit on the wrong ones, and so then you go further into the dark, dead control matrix. And that keeps this reality staying that way then too, you see. You know, because then it becomes, you either learn to live in darkness, which is what can happen, and that's not what you know, a human being that has the potential for all and everything doesn't want to limit themselves and just live solely in darkness. Even low, you know, because there's so much darkness around, it will seem as though you almost have to. And you kind of do. But you must never accept it. That's, I think, the bottom line. You must never let it be your centre if you can avoid it. And believe you me, it is not easy trying to avoid it. No, it's not. We'll all fall down at some point. When I think of the number of times that I fell down, even over the last few years, even in full awareness of the matrix, full awareness of what they're trying to do, full awareness that they're playing the game. But, when the numbers are vast against you and you get brought to a lower level, you become too weak to bring yourself up to. You can very easily wallow in this dark matrix. It suffocates you. It's almost like sinking in their dirty mud. Yeah, like the pigs in the mud. They want you to play with them in the mud. But human beings are not pigs. It's okay for real pigs to play in mud because that's normal for them, that's natural. It's like human beings are just not playing in the right environment, but we create the environment because they control our thinking, or endeavour to. And by and large, they're successful because, it's an end-time matrix. They've got the numbers, they've got the setups, they understand each human being's weaknesses. They set up your weaknesses, they set up your obsessions, they set up your the way you think about things. And they know that you're struggling to survive, so you need a lot of support. And often we use the wrong things for support because we don't have real life often for support around us. So then you go for artificial support. And that means you either pick the wrong people for support around you, or you pick, or you could, like myself, end up where you use outside things to try to control your out of control mind. How could I describe that? It's a bit like here, like see we have you can use pills, I suppose. Most people, you could use pills. You can use substances for the human body so that you can blur the matrix from your senses. The only trouble is then you're not conscious, you see. You're not aware of things enough. That's the only downside. It's a trade-off that we all do. It's a trade-off that we all do. Some of us do it more than others, and different people will have different things that they use to cope with a negative artificial matrix reality, with negative artificial people around you. When I say artificial, because the minute you don't have the positive life force in you, or that potential, and you reject it in other people and you reject it in yourself, then you have become a negative, dark, artificial life, form of life, or a non-life, if you want to look at it that way. I don't know if that made sense. Oh. Like I say, I don't know what the whole 6 of those are. I only know 4 out of the 6. Call is communication. But it's no good communicating if you're not on the level. It's no good communicating if you're not on the level. Like most of my communication in my life is with people who are acting. Usually they will talk to you, get to know you a little bit. If they do, they'll pick on, because they've specialised in not concentrating on themselves, but concentrating on other human beings. Then they understand and will pick up things about you very quick. They'll know what not so much what makes you tick, but to some extent that they will pick up your weaknesses and your strengths, especially if you tell them stuff about yourself, and then they'll relay that back to you. So you think you have found a friend or a real human being. And you'll think you've found someone that is like-minded or like yourself, to where you think that in fact, you may even think they're more positive than you. Because you can't tell the difference. If someone acts out the same through the verbal language, if someone acts out through language that they are a normal human being, you really cannot tell the difference until the guard gets let down at times, when they start to extract that negative energy from you. And you may even dismiss that if it's only a little bit. You start to feel uneasy or uncomfortable. Wonder why you don't feel okay anymore on your own. That's because you're associating with someone who's went into the darker realm. In their mind. They're a dark spirit in their mind. And they will definitely not confide. They'll never tell you that they've gone into the dark realm. The day they do, some of them might actually have potential to come out of the dark realm. It's not easy to do that. But it's like Dorian Gray putting all his negative actions onto the portrait, while he presents the image of a young, handsome, human being, never facing, every negative action that you do. Of course, it's not pleasant to do that. But then it accumulates, and past a point, you get to the point, some of them, where they just say, well, I'll just live in my negative dark matrix. In fact, they don't want to live in a better world, really, because they know that that they can't live that way anymore. I don't think I made any sense here. And I sound very pretentious and up myself saying all this, but, and it's really not about that. Each person, I think, I don't know about everyone, but I know I've ventured into the dark many times. Some people might have ventured further into the dark than me. Don't forget that each person will probably feel their own guilt more strong than an outsider. That's another thing too. Like when I've went and did wrong things and went into the dark, that because it's personal and because I'm ashamed of it, that feels much worse to me. But if I tell it to someone else, they might think I've got many more dirty, dark secrets than you. So they're like, I'm not going to tell you mine because you seem okay by comparison. But that's only because each person feels their own personal things a lot stronger. That's a mistake to think that way. Whatever I do wrong to that's important to me or in my reality is as bad as what it is for me. Someone else might do something different that I might not see as negative, but they feel it really negative. And I think, I guess it comes down to this, is that it's like always trying to stop doing what you feel negative about. If you are too ashamed to tell someone else about something you've done, then I think the name of the game is only to try to stop doing that or to limit it. That's really all you can do. You know, like that's why I get disgusted with myself. I'm just going to use the example of the animals, okay? Because I don't want to go too personal or too deep and dark on a video. But to me, animals are no different. A bit like in this movie, I was going to show that movie where the fella in at one stage, when someone killed his dog, they were like, oh, is that the same? Why is that not just as bad as killing, a person, like? Because he's like, oh, there's no laws for that, and they got away with it, and so that's what I'm saying. So if you do hold to that way of looking at things, as I kind of do tend to be a bit that way, so therefore when I allow myself to go into the dark matrix, like the cat's outside now and very sick, but it's outside because it wants to go out. But after my negative experiences with the dog, I'm like, oh, I've got to try to now do my best for the cat. And instead, the matrix has made me fail even with the cat. I'm not going to go into details about things. But the shame of knowing that temporarily you are not doing the best that you can for an animal and that you want to do because you like the animal. You like the animal more than the matrix ones, but the matrix ones get control of you and make you angry to where you can't cope with animals, because don't forget the animals are possessed too. So they're not operating in collaboration with you. No, that's another thing that is hard to get your head around. So you're playing for the matrix in a way because you're not indifferent to the animals, but you know they're possessed, but you also know that you want to treat them well because it brings about a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, when they are hurt or they pass on and you see that you haven't done as best that you wanted to, especially when you know you can't interact good with people. You know that you can't have a good relationship with other human beings. So you think, why can't I at least be a benefit to an innocent animal? But then you don't realise that the animals are also part of the matrix, so they're not all natural spiritual animals. But on the other hand, maybe another side of it is that because you sink to a certain level, you're then not capable of acting or interacting with the animals or people the way that you want to, because it is still a spiritual matrix game. So even though the animals are possessed and most of the people are possessed, you are still meant to operate as a spiritual human being, I think. So it's like as though the dark is working against you, but It's meant to still bring out the best in you. But unfortunately, most of us once you get past a point into the dark, you don't have the energy or the willpower or the strength at a mental or an emotional level. Even the body, if it's weary, it brings your mind down. All these things are combined to where they force you into negative actions, and then they say, ha, 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 game over. The spiritual human being is the same as us, and we're on top, and then we can pretend to be the superior being, shall we say. It's sort of a game like that. I don't think I explained that well. I don't think I made sense. I'll have to play this video. Maybe I won't play this video. I don't think I got the energy for this video. But see, this video is like, oh wait, and I will just explain it very quickly without getting copyright trouble. Can't believe I'm still doing this. Okay. Can't have copyright here. Communication. Communication, connection with potential real life, or maybe even to confide to where there is real communication, to where we can break down the barriers of the matrix somehow. Can only be done with two real human beings. Even if we've all slipped into the dark. All slipped into the dark. And the Matrix demigods secretly want us to slip into their dark matrix, even though they may present themselves otherwise. It's a game. And it's a game that... Okay, what is she saying here? Wait on, I have to wind that back, I think. To wind it back to get... to get the... Problems should be shared. See, the problems need to be shared, but, when you share a problem, it's a problem halved, as they say, don't they? Oh. And she just said there, I can keep a secret and throw away the key. See, so confiding to the right person, they keep the secret and throw away the key. Maybe then you can throw away the key to the secret and to the guilt of keeping the secret. Because don't forget, we're in a matrix. And all that's around really knows everything. Everything that's around me knows more about everyone and anything else. Like if I have a connection, or if I try to connect with another real human being, all the matrix knows everything that's going on. Most of the people around know what's going on. But I can't confide to the real person. That's the matrix game, the joke of the matrix, playing us. They know, they play on our insecurities, on our secrets, and on our, just yeah, on just, because we're conditioned to feel that way. We don't realise that that is the game. It's the game that we're meant to break through. We're only meant to break through and connect with another. That's why there's the separation game. I don't know, I feel exhausted here. Try again with the video. I'll just say the lyrics. Just say the lyrics if I can get them without turning it up. Contact. They don't want contact. And we're frightened of contact too. I can't explain this properly. Okay, so I'm standing in the distance. I view from afar. Should I offer some assistance? And does it matter who you are? Well, in the name of understanding, a problem should be shared. Only when you share the problem and we understand it is there connection and is there, does it matter who you are? It may or may not. But until you know who someone is, truly, and that is without, what you want to be, maybe. Maybe that's closer to the truth. Maybe to just want to be the same, but truly want to be, not just where you're acting it like the Matrix controlling artificial ones that are all around. The Matrix will make us into people that we may or may not want to be. Or maybe we might think that it's, because it's I don't know what I'm talking about here. Okay. I'm trying again. I can't. This video's too much. No, I don't think I can do this video actually. Okay, so I'll have to play the video to get the lyrics. I'm not, obviously I shouldn't be doing this video because I'm not doing it well. Okay. I can't believe I'm doing it again. No, I was supposed to do those two movies because they make a similar point. When I say two movies, it's going to talk about two movies. Two movies that but I just was going to go on to the one. I've seen it many times, and you can get a copy of it on the YouTube. It's called The Stranger. Quite a good movie. And it hadn't occurred to me till a few days ago to even talk about that particular movie. But but as you can see, I'm already all over the place. I haven't finished with the video and now I've talked about a movie. Well, I haven't spoke about it, but I mean, I can talk to Matrix people and they're never going to confide. They're never going to tell you the truth, and they don't even know the truth. At least if you know the truth and you're hiding it, you might be halfway towards confiding. That's if you need to. You know. But you might need to. Essentially, if you're connecting to another human being, it really is all about just confiding, because otherwise you may as well just interact with the Matrix ones or just go it alone, you know, to be honest. Because if it's all just pretend and does it not matter who you are, okay, so maybe, you know, it can be like Sherry and Bo in the movie where the life experiences aren't the person, no. That depends. Depends. Sometimes our life experiences can you know, end up making us so much part of the dark matrix. That's the problem. That's where you have to, you know, become aware of it, I suppose. I don't know. Okay. But, you know, it sort of says there, wait on, what was that? I'm hopeless with these lyrics now. I've just got completely bamboozled. I'm not doing this video well at all. And I've seen it enough times. I should know what I'm doing, and yet I don't. See, I'm much more likely to be confide in a demigod, probably. That's right. Sometimes to release the secrets, as she just said, is to set your spirit free. Give it a go. Nothing to lose because you stay trapped if you don't. And if you lose by expressing and confiding, well, perhaps you haven't really lost anything valuable anyway. Problem should be shared. See, she wants you to confide, but if you confide in the demigods, which is what we usually do, or those that are of the dark, dead spirits, which are mostly around, which is what I've done, then all you'll be doing is dragging yourself into the dark matrix. So you have to be careful who you confide in, I'll say that. You know, because then you will be lost. If you confide in the demigods, in the dark ones of the matrix, which are most people, you'll be lost. You'll be stuck in the lower regions of this dark matrix. You'll never pull yourself out. That's putting it flowery and fancy. You know, Whereas if you confide, break through the matrix, reveal your dark, deep spirit secrets, which have made you a dark spirit sometimes, like because I become a dark spirit myself when I entertain negative actions that the matrix has inflicted on me, but I've entertained them, I've allowed them to take control of me, like when I do something really negative, like I say, I lost my train of thought there, so then I become lost and go further into the dark matrix instead of pulling myself out into a safer, more comfortable, lighter space, shall we say. But also I won't be lost. I'll be clear on what's going on. And hopefully I won't continue to make quite so many mistakes. But, the matrix will keep trying. They will always be trying to drag you back into the matrix. If they know that you're not lost in your mind, then they'll just try to suppress you with the negative emotions. That's what the matrix control force around me is all about. They like, oh, well, she's got a certain amount worked out in her mind. So theoretically speaking, she should be able to walk outside her door and not feel really depressed or negative. But if they impose and come into your space, it becomes almost unavoidable to control your emotions and feelings. It's very hard to ignore what's under your nose, No one likes to feel trapped or suppressed. If you knew that it was all temporary and it's just part of the game, which you do realise that in a way, but it's still very hard on a daily basis to not succumb to it. It's like, hey, this is still my life while I'm here, and you wonder if you can really just endure it, if you can just keep going. And sometimes you wonder, because you can't find any connections too, you do feel lost and and surrounded and therefore alone too. But it's not about being alone, it's that you feel trapped, that you're surrounded by negative forces, because theoretically speaking, human beings don't need a lot of, they don't need, like the dark ones need, excessive dark human energy, whereas human beings do thrive on the opposite to that. But they can still survive and be comfortable in themselves, because human beings are able to make, because their mind is what they control. You control your mind, you control how you see the reality. If you control your mind, you control how you see the reality, as we know. So you don't have to be in a negative emotional state. I didn't explain that. I got muddled up, I'm sorry. But what I'm trying to say is a human being can stand on their own. And if they have control of their mind, then their emotions need not be low. And so therefore they need not give out negative energy. They need not feel, be at a low frequency or low vibration necessarily. Human beings are We're affected by what's around us and by what we create. But if we weren't controlled, that wouldn't happen. But we don't need positive or negative energy from other beings in order to survive or to sustain ourselves, or we shouldn't. I don't think I'm explaining this correct. But the dead dark spirits cannot survive on their own without receiving energy from human beings. Human beings like to get positive energy from other human beings, but they don't need to get energy. They can survive and be self-sufficient in themselves if they control their own mind on their own. It might be desirable in the matrix to connect with positive life, but you shouldn't lay down and die without it. But the dead dark ones almost, because they're already dead, they need life from a human being, but because they're dead dark spirits, they contrive to get negative energy from human beings only. Positive energy from a human being is like like kryptonite to Superman, I've been told. I didn't know that until more recent times, that Superman's only weakness was kryptonite. That was something that weakened him and could destroy him almost, And the matrix is like kryptonite to human beings in a way, because a little bit of negative energy human beings can take. But if there's a huge amount, it can bring your frequency and vibration down to where mentally you become very unstable, and you can lose heart and hope, and you can, you can sink into a very negative way of thinking. And that means you've sunk into the dead, dark control matrix even more, you see. And that requires a lot more positive thought and energy then to pull yourself out. And if you're already weakened by being surrounded by a dead, dark, negative matrix, it's very hard to generate positive thinking in your mind in order to get the positive frequency and vibration up to pull yourself out. It's a complete mind game. Then you see, it's becomes very difficult to do that. That's when we sink to our lowest levels. And it's only if you can clutch on to something positive in your mind that you can actually still survive or pull yourself a bit out of it. But the matrix will keep coming back at you. This is an end time scenario game. So it will, even as you're trying to pull yourself out with every bit that's in it will continually come at you. It will come at you at all the time. I can hear a few cars even outside going up down the street, even though it's probably 1 or 2 in the morning now, on a small dead-end street when most people would be sound asleep, you know what I mean? It's like that. But if I open the door, it doesn't look good, but they may or may, don't forget they know what you're doing. So, it's like, I don't know what I'm talking about here. See, I'm getting frustrated. See how they get on top of me to where I can't even... Okay. And I keep playing this video, and I think I better just... Okay. So, okay, we're trying again. See, I can't even play one video and make one. That shows you how I'm not calm and collected or on top of this situation at a matrix level or at a personal level. And, you know, what are you supposed to do? You know, I ask you, what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to... I'm going to use the video here. Oh, sorry. Well, you know, there's connection, so it's like you call on someone, you're calling for help, you're calling for support, but you're frightened of support, you're frightened of connection, because the Matrix has trained me for a lifetime to be timid about human interaction, relationships, and then if you interact mainly with the artificial ones, that reinforces that fear, that insecurity, that calling and confiding is a dangerous idea or option. And that has proved to be the case. So what do? Do you give it up completely and, you know, that's what the Matrix wants too. So you see, it's very much a lose situation or a win-win situation for them in some respects. But, you know, okay. But, you know, don't forget that confiding is just as hard for someone that does as someone that doesn't. You know. But sometimes, you know, when you've done it a bit, of course you have to have trust that's right, that you're confiding not to the Matrix. This is true. But the Matrix already knows, so it's kind of a joke that I should be frightened to confide or to communicate with a potential life form as opposed to, you know, the artificial life. When the artificial life, theoretically speaking, you've already confided everything to them. They already know more than those that you should connect with. So it's kind of, I think ironic is the word, that then you're frightened to communicate with your own kind. That's the name of the game, you see. Because you don't realise that the Matrix already knows every secret, everything you're doing. And they laugh and they condemn us for our shortcomings. And they make us then condemn ourselves which is like a catch-22. It's like a cycle that just keeps going round then, doesn't it? We just keep going round the mulberry bush or round in circles where we never ever break that circle and get out of it. And the Matrix knows that the only way out is is where there is a proper connection, a proper spark that lights things up, to where there is, like we used to say, a candle in the dark. Because the Matrix is all around, so that makes us afraid, yes. But because we've made so many wrong connections too in our short Matrix life, we then become afraid of a real connection. We're just not confident or secure in ourselves at all. Like I talk now big, talking with the video. But in my reality, I'm not really confident. I'm confident if I'm making a video because there's no personal interaction. You see. It just goes out over the internet. I don't have to face look into someone's eye and say the same things, even if I was saying something negative. That's when you break through the matrix. The rest is all really just playing for the matrix. It's almost pretend. But, it may still offer a little bit of support to someone, so it's okay that way. But it's not going to change anything. I've said that before. Should it matter who you are? It depends on what you want. If you want to break through the matrix, if you really want what you're asking for, if you really want what you're asking for, like sometimes we bring things into reality. Like we look for, like when I first made the first video, I said to myself, I just want to connect with one person on the other side of the world. In other words, like that was my aim. I was like, if one person hears me and agrees with me about the matrix, or if I show one person that's a real human being that there is a matrix, I'm like, oh, that's what I thought would be almost impossible. And so I thought, oh, well, that's what I'll just do it for, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I didn't have any real hope, but at the same time, you put your energy into it, and then, it happens. And you're sort of surprised when it does, because you're like, oh, that's, I didn't expect that, Like you basically just think that you just talk into a mobile phone or whatever, and it's like talking to air, but it gets it off your chest, and you're like, oh, well, I did something, but it doesn't, Okay, but I better concentrate on the thing. Oh, I think we got her wrong there. I can't. I think maybe I should give this video away. Bungled it up now. I can't believe I'm doing it again. Touch the screen, the human touch, that's connection too, I would imagine. But I've noticed that sometimes some of the artificial ones are okay with touch, but not proper communication. So don't forget, that's right. So it's very hard to know when you're breaking through at a connection level, at a confide level. I think confiding is, from my own way of looking at it, a breakthrough. Break through the matrix of your mind, but also a breakthrough in the physical reality. Because, we're prisoners of the matrix, but also prisoners of our own mind in the matrix. That's essentially it, because they've got full control, you see. See, some people, unlike myself, are controlled by the matrix. But their mind is free while they're in the control matrix. That's when you're at a higher level, I would think. So they have to deal with the matrix. But it doesn't affect them quite as much, because they're clear in their mind. They're free in their mind, even though they might still have to deal with the physical restraints of the matrix around them. That could just be at a normal society level, even, as you know. In other words, you can't do, even though you're free, you can't do everything you like. You're confined by the laws of the land, etc., etc. And I don't think I know what I'm talking about here. I can keep a secret and throw away the key. But sometimes to release the secrets is to set our children or our spirits free. Surely everyone wants to be free in their own mind. I know I do. And we all have our cross to bear, as she says. But in the name of understanding, our problems should be shared. She wants you to share with her, though. The demigods want you to share with them. Give your attention and your positive feelings and emotions to them in a way, because we relate more to the demigods, let's be honest. Okay, so I'll try to do this video if I can. Okay, so it's hit or miss. The choice is yours. Stick or twist. Okay, so that means... Okay, so it's... Sorry about that. Oh, I can't stop it at the right spots, so I'm going to be up for copyright here. See, she looks very confused there. She doesn't know what's going on. She's like, am I seeing things clearly? Do I really know what's going on in someone else's mind? The mind of the Matrix and the mind of the people around. What are their intentions? Are they a potential good connection? Or will they drag me further into the dark matrix? Okay. Stick or twist, choice is yours. Hit or miss. See, the choice is yours. Choice is mine. Whether I hit or miss. Whether I hit or miss on the right connection. Whether I pick the right people to communicate with or to confide in. Oh, I can't do this. And do you stick or do you twist? Do you turn away? Do we turn away the right ones and associate with the wrong ones? Do we confide in the wrong ones? Do we communicate with the wrong ones? Do we hit or miss? Do we stick or twist? And the choice is ours, but we will be bamboozled by the matrix, just like I will. You know, and then you'll have your own problems with communication, your problem with confiding, your problem with your insecurities about yourself, about, you know, your secrets, your this. Oh, look, it just goes on and on. And the matrix laughs while we play this mind control game that we always seem to be destined to somehow lose. I don't know. And I don't think I've done well with that song at all. I had enthusiasm for that song over the last many months. Now I feel depleted and lost and hopeless that the song means nothing and that it's pointless me playing it. And that I don't know if there's anything real there at all. I don't know anymore. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm messing the whole thing up. Sorry about that. Just as well the cat's outside. I'm glad the cat's outside because I was turning the volume up. It's too loud. Waking the Matrix straight up, but they're already awake because they all watch anyway. So, but of course you have to pretend. You see, it's all a pretend game. Big pretend game. No guarantees. Nothing to lose. Have we been, am I so confused and so confounded by the Matrix and by life? A life I've lived, but I'm too so mind played by the Matrix that I can't. Of course, some people might say maybe to confide can sometimes be a con. Well, it can. It can, because if you confide to the wrong ones, of course, I've said that before, and I've certainly experienced that. But hey, what we have in our mind and what we've done isn't changed just because we keep it a secret. My mother took many secrets to the grave. She actually said she'd take some secrets to the grave, and she did. But did she really? Did it matter whether she took the secrets to the grave or not? I don't get that really now. I never got it with her. And I don't know what I'm saying here. Okay, so I've finally been able to press it onto that one. So, will you confide? And if you confide, as the demigod says, you do set something free. The truth does set you free. I think that's what it's. I think so. I don't think they tell us these things for nothing. The truth sets you free, and even just confiding or telling the truth can set you a bit free. It doesn't make something not real by keeping it a secret. All the things I've done wrong, or whether they're good or bad, doesn't mean that I haven't done them, like the Matrix artificial ones, if I don't say it, if I don't confide, if I pretend that someone else has done something more wrong than me. it doesn't change what you just make your mind matrix more dark by keeping it inside your mind, I think. I mean, that's what psychology's all about, isn't it? It's about going and getting things off your chest to some extent. But I would say that if you get something off your chest and you confide to a matrix demigod or those that are of the matrix, any person, you're getting it off your chest. But there will be no understanding on the receiving end, whereas you expect that there's comprehension and understanding. That's about the only difference, I would say. I mean, theoretically speaking, it's still good to get things off your chest, but if you don't get full comprehension, if you confide to the demigod ones of the matrix, those that think they are gods, but have no real comprehension of what you're telling them, and no real interest in what you're telling them too. That's another thing. Actually, I think I've felt that way over the last few years. I've always thought, well, look, I do a lot of talking sometimes, and sometimes, like if I express something, I may not let the other person express their point of view or their things either. It's good if you've got mutual exchange. That's something the Matrix doesn't like, so I consciously try to work against the Matrix. So, if I think that by connecting, even if it's difficult for myself, you're meant to do it to break through the matrix, not just because you feel like it yourself, because sometimes some people do feel like confiding, but you may not want to confide everything. And, like when you hold back, like remember how we were going on a long time ago about how the two people were fighting one another with their swords and going down in that famous painting, I think it was, where they're going down in the quicksand, but they're still fighting one another because they've allowed their mind matrix to get on top of them. They can't that is still more important than the reality of the matrix to them. See, that's where we really, and I say that with myself too, even though I do try to get on top of it, the inability of human beings to, to let the matrix control your mind to the extent that you can't connect properly. Because of matrix-controlled ideas. Because the matrix is largely an artificial acting playground. They're not on the level about anything. They're only about simulating and copying human beings and downloading. They're basically just about suppressing and getting the negative resources out of the human being. But they convince us to play in their matrix to such an extent that we that we'd rather deal with the fake matrix and play and pretend in the fake matrix rather than face, our true spirituality, shall we say, because that's facing the darkness in our mind as well. Put simply, it's, I don't think I'm putting it simply, and I don't think I'm making sense. Goodness gracious. Oh, gee. Oh, sorry about that, the sounds. I can hear some Mad Matrix cars in the background while I'm making this, where they're aggressively zooming around trying to bring the vibration down of myself and anyone else that's in it. Because, that's like great anger and distress going on there, It's aggressiveness against facing the truth, really. I think that sounded okay. I'm not sure if it made any sense. Oh. Yeah, she's showing you her allegiance there, I think, even though it's a very cute gesture. Okay, so she can keep a secret and throw away the key, but sometimes to release that secret or the secrets that you hold does set you free. Yeah, okay. We all get hurt by love and we all have our cross to bear. Someone said that to me years and years ago, that everyone has their cross to bear. Because, a lot of people look at some people and think, oh, they seem to have it better than you or something. But that is only your own perception, because you don't understand each person's life. Each person has different difficulties. Some things that I might consider easy or easier to tolerate or to endure in life might be extremely difficult for someone else, because their mindset, their mind is different. Their reactions and their foibles and their emotion about certain things will be different to mine. Different people handle different situations in different ways. You'll find that the matrix targets each person's environment and each person's foibles and weaknesses and what's happened differently. They know the reactions they'll get out of you. And they set up things so that you are afraid of, even confiding, like the video, yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll give that a go. I can't quite get this, I don't think. Oh, sorry about this. I don't think I'll be going on to that movie somewhere, either. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm bungling up the video. I got all the wrong pictures up on the screen. Oh, wait on. Okay. Okay, let's see what I can get here. I don't know. I don't think I should be putting this video out. It's just one big. Well, I'm not sure about that. I think I always wanted redemption, I think. I don't even know what the word means, but that means to be basically, wait on. Basically I wanted, let me see, I think it come up before. But the choice is yours. See, it keeps saying, you know, you can make the right choices or the wrong choices, and then it will be hit or miss. Yeah, I mean that's essentially our lives, isn't it? We either hit or we miss because of the good or the bad choices that we make. And the Matrix will always be trying to make us make the wrong choices, and that's essentially what I've done, and you know, and that's the way it goes. God. Oh, I can't quite get. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Oh, I don't. Oh, I'm bungling all this up. I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. Choice is yours. Oh, wait. No, I got that. I can't quite. I'm not fast enough to get the right one. Not fast enough. Oh, we all have our weaknesses. Oh, okay. So that was the one I wanted. Yeah. See. Well, you know, that's probably what we want is total forgiveness. Yeah. You know, you want someone to say, well, look, that all your transgressions are forgiven. That's what we all want, really, you know. And we want to believe that too. We want to believe that the matrix has controlled us, and that it doesn't, that everything will be forgiven, and that it's all just a bad dream, and that you know, that's essentially true. That's what we do want, or at least quite a lot of us do. And then when we don't get it, we're angry and frustrated, you know, that we have to keep going more, dealing with the negative reality, and you know, and then we're Oh, then we're mainly, I would say I'm mainly confused, yeah. You know, the confusion element of in our mind about everything is definitely what leads us into hitting or missing, shall we say. Hit or miss, the choice is mine, and if I'm confused, it'll probably be miss, won't it? Yeah, and that's usually what happens. Even if it's only in a conversation, or my reactions to the negative artificial matrix control force that's around me. They're always trying to confuse you, always trying to get you to make the wrong choices, always trying to get negative emotions out of you. And I mean, a lot of the time you're trying to escape the reality, escape the truth, escape the harshness of the control matrix around you. So then you resort to diversions from the matrix because, yeah, you want some sort of buffer from the reality, buffer from feeling negative all the time. I think, I don't know if I explained that, but and I certainly am not explaining it very well with this video, and I've filmed all the wrong bits, yeah, and then you're depressed in a low mood, feel that everything's a bit on the hopeless side, and that you can't pull yourself out of the matrix or the matrix of your mind even. Because don't forget, when you're depressed, that's your mind feeling depressed. And you'd say, well, if the matrix creates circumstances and situations to where you're not successful somehow, of course you're going to be depressed. But it is a non-acceptance of your own choices and your own bad decisions sometimes. Because don't forget, as it's a spiritual matrix, I don't like to accept that I brought some of it on myself. And unless I get it right, it's a bit like that movie Groundhog Day. Do you remember that movie Groundhog Day where the fella, because I'd seen that years ago, and it was a funny film because the fella basically was forced to relive the same day over and over again, which was Groundhog Day. And essentially the idea of that movie was that he couldn't stand it, like basically having the same interactions, everything the same every day. And he's forced to go through that same day over and over again until he changed something in his reactions to that day. Until he faced the truth that he was not behaving the right way on that day, or in general probably in his life, but until he connected, I think, with that girl in the movie and changed his way of seeing things, therefore his reactions to the people around him in that day. You know, when he did that, then the Groundhog Day stopped. He was stopped repeating that endless daily cycle of the same thing until he changed his mind. Basically, I suppose. That was how it was in the movie anyway. It was interesting. Funny. Yeah, funny. It's even outside. I've got these aggressive cars that won't come out on the video. But those cars never used to make all that depressive, I said depressive there. See, notice how I said depressive noise, because basically that makes me depressed or angry. The anger will start and then you'll end up feeling down. Because you hear these negative cars around you all the time. Every vehicle is making a negative noise on the road. They never used to, even though there was always a lot of vehicles. You know? Oh, I have to let that video go, I think. I think I'll let that video go. I think I'll fold up because I can't talk and I can't do that. I don't think I can do that. Anyway, the movie was called The Stranger. Quite a good cast. 3 main characters in it. Prominent old actors. I think it was made in the 40s, I think. See if I can find it. Can I find it? Bungled that up. Okay. I think I can show the titles or something. Let's see if I can find this one. What is it called? I'm not as quick on these things, you know, like with typing and all that stuff like most people. I'm quite slow. What is it? The Stranger S2. Oh, yeah, see, at least it comes up quick because I looked at it before. I haven't actually looked at it for quite a bit, but I have seen it a few times. And, oh, there it is. Okay. There it is. Okay, so it's The Stranger. Okay, so it's 1946. It says 46. Okay, so it's 1946. Okay. But essentially, that movie is interesting because, see, it's called The Stranger because she's married. She got married to this man that she's obviously very in love with, and he appears to love her. But it's called The Stranger because really he's a stranger because she's married someone where she doesn't know what his real background is at all. She really doesn't know him. And also she doesn't know that he really doesn't love her because he's not capable of it. He's a matrix, artificial one. Even in this movie it shows that. But, so he's really a stranger. But in the course of the movie, she's forced to see the truth and the reality that the man she married is not who or what she thought. And even when he acknowledges that he's killed someone, she still is devoted and still loves him because he gave an explanation as to why that happened. But the point of the movie was was that even when she's shown evidence that she's really married to something that doesn't exist in a way, because if you're married to someone and you don't really know that person, and that person is totally the opposite to what you actually think they are, like it's one thing if someone keeps a few secrets, that's right, but their personality might essentially still be what you think. But he was like the exact opposite. So the reason she had trouble not facing that was because she had to face the reality that, like myself, that you've basically been deceived by the Matrix, that you've once again fell down, that you've essentially confused yourself, that you've tricked yourself, and you've let someone else confuse and deceive or trick you too, and under the guise of love is very hard to accept, because she could not accept that she could love such a person, because he was the opposite. He'd done a lot of wrong things, and was totally the opposite to what she thought he was, but she had given all her love to him, so that was why she couldn't let go of it until it became almost like undeniable, because the difficulty was admitting to herself that she had loved wrongly. And so that was like then a question, then she'd have to question herself. She'd have to say, how could I love so wrong? It even would question love itself in a funny kind of way. But, but the movie showed that, and I guess, you could lose. You would wonder about yourself. You'd end up very confused, as to how that could happen. But essentially, if you realise that you are just dealing with brilliant actors that will mirror back to you what you want to see, then it isn't so surprising. But that's what happens mostly in the Matrix, is that people are living with people that are not what they think they are. They can be married to someone that basically is only married to them for the reverse of what they think they're married for. They're married to you to actually make sure that you are never really content in that marriage. They're extracting the negative vibration from you, whether you're aware of it or not. And in the case of this movie, he was mainly married to have a legitimate place in the township or the reality, because he had a dark past, and he, completely assumed a completely false identity, false name, all this sort of thing. That's the movie. But it's still the same thing, because it's just that some Matrix people will do different things in the reality. Some will do be very much of the dark Matrix, and therefore will be you know, doing very destructive things, whereas others will be more covert and more subtle. But it's all essentially still a human control mechanism, in a way, how they operate. And it's just the way this reality works, and I don't know what I'm talking about, so I better fold up. I really don't. Sorry to say that, but sometimes I just... obviously you can lose heart because it's even, I'm mentioning negative things in a way, and you feel negative. Maybe I feel negative today, in making the video. The name of the game, of course, is to try to get past that. To say, like, I think someone said that about, I think someone made that point a long time ago when I made a video a long time ago, and I was rambling on like I did about how how traumatic it was being in the Matrix and how it was all about trauma. And I think they left the comment, life is trauma. And I didn't quite get it at the time. I kind of got it, but at the same time, like, well, yeah, maybe, I don't think life should be trauma, because I was obviously thinking that, oh no, I don't think that it is meant to be like this. But you see, that was more sensible because it was an acceptance. That's what they were probably trying to tell me, but I didn't get it, and probably still don't get it. That's what the Matrix is all about. It is about trauma, and it is about traumatizing human beings. And you're somehow meant to make your way out of it. That is the name of the game. Once I didn't, even though I was making the video and talking about that, I still was not accepting it. You see, not accepting that is the domain that we're in, and that that it is part of this reality. In fact, it's a big basis of it. And because it wasn't like they were saying, oh, you are meant to deal with it best way that you can. This is not a flowery world. It's not all flowers. It's just not like that. Yeah, okay.